You're listening to The Vault, a forum communications podcast covering true crime and general intrigue in the upper Midwest. I'm Trisha Taurinskas, reading They're All Dead, Sir. Double murder-suicide shocked Sioux Falls in 1893. Written by Erik Kaufman. On an otherwise pleasant Sunday evening in 1893, a 7-year-old boy from Sioux Falls wandered into the home of a neighbor. Apparently shell-shocked, he managed to get out a few words about the horrific incident he just witnessed. They're all dead, sir. The young man was Sumner Lacey, the son of Harry and Clara Lacey. He had been at his grandmother's home earlier in the evening when his father, whose controlling nature and financial instability had finally caught up with him, pulled out a .38 caliber revolver and shot his wife and mother-in-law, Lydia Bunker, in the head. The deed done, he walked calmly out the front door of the home. He sat down on a wheelbarrow and put the pistol to his own head. Pulling the trigger, he ended his life and cemented the legend for one of the most shocking murders in the history of Sioux Falls and the newly minted state of South Dakota. It's a story recounted in surprising detail in 2 editions of the Evening Argus Leader, a forerunner to the Sioux Falls newspaper of today. It involves clashing personalities, financial disagreements, and a grisly ending that would leave its mark on South Dakota history. The story of Harry Lacey and the murder of his family began on October 26, 1873, when he married Clara A. Bunker in Muscatine County, Iowa. The couple later moved to Sioux Falls at a time when there was a considerable influx of new residents flocking to the soon-to-be new state. The account of the incident in the Evening Argus Leader notes that when the family arrived, Lacey himself was considered plausible and competent, and was likely to make a name for himself in this world. The time the Lacey's spent in Sioux Falls was dominated by arguments over money, land dealings, and personality conflicts, according to the newspaper report. The family had access to money, although it did not appear they were considered rich or upper class. A few years before the murders, Bunker had sold about 300 acres of an old homestead property at what is referred to as 2.5 miles east of town, bringing in about $40,000 in 1893 dollars. In 2022 currency, that amounts to approximately $1,316,000. Sometime after that sale, about $15,000 or $20,000 of the $40,000 was turned over to Harry Lacey and his brother Edward for an investment. Bunker, however, became suspicious and eventually demanded the money back. Lacey offered her securities in return for her request, but he could not produce the cash to pay her back. It was this argument that apparently set the stage for the 2 murders and suicide. An argument over breakfast in December of 1891 continued that argument over money. At that time, Lacey's wife sided with her mother and said the money ought to be paid back. Lacey then apparently became enraged, demanded his mother-in-law leave the house, struck his wife, and brandished a revolver, threatening to shoot his wife and himself. The incident resulted in Lacey's arrest, and he was fined $50. For much of the rest of the year, Lacey lived away from his family. Lacey apparently blamed the discord on Bunker, and that she made his life hell on earth. He had also been heard to say that if things kept up as they had been, he would kill her and end his own life. The situation grew serious enough that the pair filed for divorce in late 1891, but the two came to a resolution in the summer of 1892, and the divorce never became final. The final stages of the crime were set up when, in the spring of 1893, the family moved to a pair of homes east of town, with a peaceful truce being called between the parties. That peace lasted a week before it came to a head with the murder-suicide. Sioux Falls itself was a different place in 1893 than it is today. It was a growing community in a new state, and one that was subject to the social and economic instabilities of the time. That's according to Bill Hoskins, museum director for Siouxland Heritage Museum in Sioux Falls. In 1870, the census showed less than 50 people in all of Minnehaha County. By 1880, the population of Sioux Falls was at about 2,500, and by 1890, it had blossomed to 10,000 people. People from the east were moving west in search of fame and fortune. The country had been in the midst of an economic depression in 1873, and the gold rush in the Black Hills essentially pulled the nation from the depths of it. By the time the 1890s rolled around, economic turmoil was again raging, and just a few months before the Lacey murders, the stock market took another hit. The Friday and Saturday prior to the killings, Harry Lacey would be seen on the streets of Sioux Falls, visiting various locations and settling up bills and other affairs. He turned over a clock to a restaurant owner named Art DeGood to settle a small bill. He offered to pay a debt at another restaurant, the Knickerbocker, with his heavy overcoat. Roger Marson, the proprietor, refused to take the coat. He even stopped to settle a bill at the Evening Argus Leader office and offered to pay the bill with books. The books were not taken, but Lacey agreed to an arrangement whereby he would write a series of articles on irrigation. Shortly after, he headed back to meet his family, who, according to the archive newspaper, lived just east of the motor track, which runs north and south from the powerhouse to the town. Just west of the track is the old Bunker homestead. Lacey and his wife were living together, and Bunker lived alone in the house west of the track. Harry Lacey arrived at his home, where his wife was visiting with a neighbor. The neighbor then left, with Clara Lacey also taking her leave and heading to her mother's house. Lacey apparently read the newspaper for a short time before walking across the way and kicking in the back door to Bunker's home. As Bunker tried to pass from the dining table to the kitchen, Lacey fired a shot, hitting her behind the right ear, killing her instantly. Clara Lacey, who saw the raised weapon, attempted to grab the revolver, but Harry Lacey wrenched it from her and shot, the bullet striking her almost exactly where the previous one had hit Bunker. The incident was witnessed by 7-year-old Abner Lacey and 3.5-year-old daughter Lydia E. Lacey. It is their account of the incident that provides the known narrative of the event. Frank Lacey, the oldest child, was apparently in town at the time of the shootings. Lacey reportedly looked at his wife's body for a moment, proceeded to walk outside and sit down on the wheelbarrow, and put the gun to his own head, pulling the trigger. This third and final shot from the gun struck him in nearly the exact same place as it had struck the other two victims. The initial Evening Argus Leader report suggested that Lacey was of sound mind when he committed the murders, though a jury decision would later dispute that. Harry J. Lacey, who has lived in Sioux Falls for years, and who was known as a bright, competent, cool, desperate man, at 5:30 Sunday evening shot and instantly killed his mother-in-law, Mrs. Lydia Bunker, and his wife, and then putting the muzzle of a .38 caliber revolver to his head, blew out his own brains. It was not the act of insanity, it was the deed of a desperate man, who fancied that he had been wronged by others, and it was evidently planned quietly and coolly, probably for days. The day after the killings, a reporter for the Evening Argus Leader visited the home where the murders took place. The 3 bodies were all lined up in coffins in the same room. Sumner Lacey reported the murders to his neighbor, Eliza Jones, who was led back to the scene of the crime by the child. The reporter indicated that Clara Lacey and his children had all feared Harry Lacey, and Bunker had remarked that she suspected the husband would kill us all yet. She had reportedly said Harry Lacey had said, in front of his family, that he proposed to live with the family until the money was gone, and then kill the whole family. The Evening Argus Leader, dated October 24th, 1893, said a reporter for the paper had gone to the Bunker house the following day and witnessed the funeral. Despite a considerable estate left from Bunker, the children were expected to make their home with the neighbor, Jones, who appears to be referred to by both the first names Elijah and Eliza in the Evening Argus Leader reports. A coroner's jury, composed of Alexander Stern, Abner B. Green, and R.E. Vreeland, rendered a verdict stating Lydia Bunker and Clara Lacey came to their deaths by pistol shots fired by Harry Lacey, and that Lacey himself came to his death by a pistol shot fired by himself with suicidal intent, and that all the acts were committed by Harry Lacey while temporarily insane and in the state of frenzy. None of the witnesses, Mrs. A.J. McCain, Eliza Jones, nor Frank Lacey, indicated that they believed Lacey was insane at the time of the crimes. Frank Lacey testified that his father had abused his mother. Today, 129 years later, the story of the killings remain barely as a memory. The three killed, Frank Lacey, Clara Lacey, and Lydia Bunker, share a single four-sided grave marker at Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Sioux Falls, where it is listed in the cemetery directory as a notable historic point of interest. The peaceful setting is essentially all that remains of a short, extremely violent few minutes that took 3 people from the world and left 3 children as orphans in Sioux Falls near the turn of the century. Unlock more cold cases and crimes from the past at inforum.news/try. Get your first 3 months of unlimited access to our entire news network for only 99 cents a month. Take advantage of this deal at inforum.news/try. Forum Communications is proud to be part of the Trust Project. Learn more at thetrustproject.org.